My family's barbecue party. My nephew crashed into my 7-year-old son and fell before I could explain what really happened. My father grabbed a red-hot barbecue tong from the fire and pressed it into my little boy's hand as my son screamed in agony. My family acted like it was no big deal. Then a sound echoed through the neighborhood that made every face go pale. The smell of grilled meat was still in the air when my son screamed, not cried, screamed. The kind of scream that makes a mother's blood turn cold before her mind even understands why. My name is Clara Whitmore. I'm 32, a single mother, and until that afternoon, I still believed family meant protection. My 7-year-old son, Noah, had been chasing bubbles across my father's backyard, while everyone laughed around the barbecue pit. Then my nephew, Tyler, came running too fast from the patio, slammed straight into Noah, and tripped over his own feet. Noah fell backward onto the grass. Tyler only scraped his knee. But before I could even reach my son, my sister shouted, "Look what Noah did!" My father turned from the grill, face red with anger and beer. "That boy needs discipline." "Dad, stop." He didn't. He didn't listen. He grabbed the red-hot barbecue tong from the fire and pressed it into Noah's small hand. My son screamed so loud, the birds shot out of the trees. And then from the street, sirens started coming closer. The sirens grew louder with every second. For one impossible moment, everyone froze. My father stepped back from Noah as if he had done nothing wrong. My sister rushed to Tyler, dramatically checking his knee while completely ignoring the blister already forming on my son's tiny hand. I dropped to my knees beside Noah. "Baby, look at me," I whispered, fighting tears. "Stay with mommy." His face was pale. His entire body shook. "Mom!" he cried. "It hurts." My stomach twisted. The ambulance pulled up outside the house. Apparently, one of the neighbors had heard Noah's scream and called emergency services. 2 paramedics hurried through the gate. "What happened?" one asked. Before I could answer, my father spoke. "Small accident. Kids playing. Everybody's fine." "Fine." The word nearly made me choke. I held up Noah's trembling hand. The paramedic's expression instantly changed. "That is not a minor injury." Silence spread across the backyard. For years, my family had treated me like I was invisible. My father worshipped my older sister Vanessa. She could do no wrong. Her son Tyler could break windows, steal toys, and bully other children. Yet somehow Noah was always blamed. But this time felt different, because the paramedic had quietly pulled out a phone and started documenting everything. The moment the paramedic began taking photos, my father's confidence cracked. "Why are you photographing my property?" he demanded. The paramedic didn't even look up. "I'm documenting a child's injury." The backyard fell silent. My sister crossed her arms. "You're acting like Dad attacked him." I stared at her in disbelief. "Attacked him," I snapped. "He burned a 7-year-old child's hand with a red-hot tong." Vanessa rolled her eyes. "Oh please, you're always dramatic." Noah winced beside me as another wave of pain hit him. The paramedics wrapped his hand and prepared him for transport. One of them gently asked Noah what happened. I expected him to stay quiet. Instead, he looked straight at the medic. "Grandpa did it." My father's face turned white. "That's not what happened," he barked. "It is," Noah whispered. The medic exchanged a glance with his partner. Something had changed. For the first time in my life, outsiders were witnessing what happened inside our family. Years of favoritism. Years of excuses. Years of my father deciding who deserved protection and who deserved punishment. As the ambulance doors closed, I looked back toward the house. Several neighbors had gathered near the fence, and one of them was holding up a phone, recording everything. The emergency room was crowded, bright, and painfully cold. Noah sat beside me, his injured hand wrapped in thick white bandages while doctors treated the burn. Then my phone started vibrating. Again. And again. And again. At first I ignored it. Then I looked. Dozens of messages. Hundreds of notifications. My stomach dropped. The neighbor's video had already spread across local social media. The footage showed Noah crying on the ground, my father grabbing the glowing barbecue tong, my desperate shout, and Noah's scream. The comments were brutal. That's child abuse. Who does that to a little boy? Someone call the police. The video was being shared faster than anyone could stop it. Then my sister called. I answered. Clara, take that video down right now. Me? I laughed bitterly. I didn't record it. You're ruining Dad's reputation. I stared through the hospital window. My son is sitting in a burn unit. For several seconds, she said nothing. Then she whispered something that finally shattered whatever remained of our relationship. Tyler was crying too, you know. I ended the call. 5 minutes later, a police officer entered Noah's room carrying a tablet. And the first thing he said made my heart stop. Mrs. Whitmore, we'd like to discuss your father's arrest. For a second, I felt something dangerously close to satisfaction. Then guilt followed, not because my father was being investigated, because part of me still wanted him to be the father I had spent my entire life hoping for. The officer explained that the video, Noah's statement, the medical report, and multiple witnesses had triggered an immediate investigation. I nodded quietly. Noah deserved protection, not excuses. That night, after Noah finally fell asleep in the hospital bed, I sat alone beside the window. My phone buzzed nonstop. Family members, cousins, aunts, uncles. Every message carried the same theme. You're destroying the family. Not one asked how Noah was doing. Not one. That was the moment something inside me became calm. Cold. Clear. For years, my father had controlled the family through money. He paid mortgages, funded businesses, covered debts, and everyone protected him because they depended on him. Including Vanessa. Especially Vanessa. Then I remembered something. 3 years earlier, my father had convinced me to help manage records for several family investments. I still had copies of contracts, transfers, emails, and financial documents. Back then, I never imagined I'd need them. Now I opened my laptop, and within 10 minutes, I discovered a secret that made my blood run cold. A very expensive secret. The secret was hidden in plain sight. For years, my father had been moving money between family businesses and personal accounts. Most of it wasn't illegal, but some of it definitely wasn't clean. The deeper I dug, the worse it became. There were undocumented loans, questionable transfers, tax filings that didn't match internal records, and one name appeared everywhere. Vanessa. My sister had signed documents she clearly never read. She trusted Dad completely, the same way everyone else did. I spent the next 2 days organizing everything, not altering, not fabricating, just arranging facts, every document, every signature, every transfer. Then I delivered copies to the attorney handling my father's criminal case, and another set to a forensic accountant who had contacted me after seeing the viral video. The fallout started almost immediately. 3 days later, my father called from home. His voice sounded different, smaller. You did this. No. I replied calmly. You did. You turned everyone against me. I looked at Noah coloring quietly beside me. No, Dad. The truth did. He hung up. That evening, investigators appeared at 2 family businesses. By morning, bank accounts were frozen pending review. And for the first time in her life, Vanessa realized that blindly protecting our father might cost her everything. Then she showed up at my front door. I opened the door and barely recognized her. Vanessa looked exhausted. Her makeup was gone. Her eyes were swollen from crying. For once, she wasn't angry. She was scared. Clara, she whispered. Please help me. I folded my arms. The irony was almost unbearable. When Noah was screaming in pain, she had worried about Tyler's scraped knee. Now she wanted mercy. What do you want? She stepped inside. The investigators questioned me for 4 hours. I said nothing. They think I knew about the transfers. Did you? No. For the first time, I believed her. Vanessa had many flaws, but being clever enough to run financial schemes wasn't one of them. Tears filled her eyes. Dad used me. The words hung heavily between us because they were true. My father had spent decades turning us against each other while presenting himself as the hero. Now the illusion was collapsing. Piece by piece, Vanessa sank into a chair. I should have protected Noah. I looked away. Hearing those words months earlier would have meant everything. Now they felt painfully late. The next morning, investigators executed additional warrants. And by afternoon, my father was formally charged. But that wasn't what shocked the family most. The real shock arrived when my grandmother's lawyer revealed a document nobody knew existed. The entire family gathered in the lawyer's office 3 weeks later. My father sat quietly beside his attorney. Vanessa stared at the floor. Nobody looked confident anymore. Then the lawyer opened a sealed envelope. My client instructed that this be revealed only if serious harm ever came to one of her great-grandchildren. The room went silent. My grandmother had been gone for 7 years. The lawyer unfolded a document. It wasn't a will. It was a trust amendment. Years earlier, Grandma had secretly transferred a significant portion of her estate into a protected family trust. But there was a condition. Anyone found guilty of abusing a child would be permanently removed as a beneficiary. My father's face lost all color. The lawyer continued. As a result of the ongoing criminal findings, Mr. Whitmore is disqualified. Millions vanished from his future in a single sentence. Nobody spoke. Nobody defended him. For the first time, consequences had finally caught up with him. Later that evening, Noah and I sat on our porch watching the sunset. His injured hand was healing, slowly. "Mom," he asked softly, "are we okay now?" I smiled and kissed his forehead. "Yes, sweetheart, because revenge wasn't what saved us. The truth did." And once the truth was finally heard, the people who caused the pain had no place left to hide. Completed.